Good afternoon. Welcome to our Women in Business Speaker Series event brought to you by Ixonia Bank. Feel free to keep eating while we go through the program. For those of you that I haven't had the pleasure to meet yet, my name is Lauren Ruff. I'm Vice President and Marketing Director for Ixonia Bank. I have been with the bank for 16 years this month, and I am so excited about the direction we're headed. We're a boutique commercial bank with 7 locations spanning from Jefferson County into Milwaukee County, with full services, including personal banking and wealth management. We have an accomplished leadership team that encourages innovative banking solutions, allowing us to be more agile than our peers, and we're well capitalized. In other words, we're open for business. At Ixonia Bank, we've developed a Women in Business program that is focused on supporting and empowering women in all aspects of the business world. We want to engage with women like you, executives, entrepreneurs, and community leaders. We aspire to invest in helping women succeed in their business and personal pursuits. If this is your first time attending an Ixonia Bank event, welcome. We hope you experience some of what makes Ixonia Bank special. We have a talented team of professionals who focus on relationships and would welcome the opportunity to discuss your banking needs and financial goals. In fact, there should be an Ixonia Bank representative at each table. So if you have any questions about us, I encourage you to talk to one of my teammates today. We have a phenomenal panel discussion in store for you today. Before I introduce our moderator, I have a couple of housekeeping things to mention. You should have a program with more information about our panel. I could go on for hours talking about our panelists, so feel free to read up on their bios in the program. Our panel discussion will take about an hour, and there will be an opportunity for questions from the audience at the end. We'll walk around with a microphone, and you can request a microphone with your questions as time allows. We hope you have a great experience today. You can post about it on social media, tagging us and using the hashtag Helping Women Succeed. Without further ado, our moderator for today's panel discussion is Dr. Cindy Gnadinger. Dr. Gnadinger became Carroll University's 15th president in July 2017 and is the first woman to serve in the role since the university's founding in 1846, so before Wisconsin was a state. Like the university's mascot, the Pioneers, she has pioneered Carroll through an ambitious and dynamic strategic planning process and has prioritized innovation and entrepreneurship, helping to oversee the creation of the School of Education and Human Services, including master's degrees in programs in teaching and behavioral health psychology. Other programs launched during her presidency include an associate degree in nursing, an analytics concentration of the MBA, a business analytics minor, and a direct entry Master of Science nursing program. Last spring, the university also added an RN to MSN program and a Master of Education in Organizational Development. That's something I'm really interested in. And in addition to these and more, under her leadership, Carroll University has added innovative new bachelor's degrees in aviation science and drone technologies and video game design this past spring. And with her contract being recently extended for another 4 years, you know she will continue to embody the pioneering spirit of Carroll by offering academic programs that directly meet the needs of our changing society. Once again, thank you all for coming and enjoy the rest of your event. With that, Dr. Gnadinger, you guys are up.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today for what I know will be a very important conversation about a topic that we're hearing a whole lot about. So I'm delighted to share this stage today with our panelists, our esteemed group of women, who will talk with you a little bit about AI and the movement forward with this mysterious new way of operating. We know that AI is getting a lot of attention these days, so I want to start by explaining what it is, and then Kathy, I'll start with you if you don't mind, and can you provide some everyday examples about how it's starting to have an impact in our lives?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I'm Kathy Henrich. I lead the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition. We're a nonprofit growing the tech ecosystem in southeast Wisconsin. But if you think, so first of all, you could ask 10 of us for a definition of AI, and you'd probably get 10 slightly different definitions. So Turing, back in the 50s, defined it as basically computers emulating humans and being able to do things that humans do. If you asked a technician, they might describe it as it's the ability to learn from data and apply math to data to be able to predict something that's new. So my daughter happens to be a data scientist. She came out of a math background, right? It's a lot about algorithms and algebra and advanced mathematics, et cetera, where based on patterns, you can start to learn more things. Or back in, when I was talking about this a lot back in about 2016 or 17, I would put it in layman's terms of it's the ability to do things that we think of like being able to recognize a voice. So in all of your cases, we all use Siri or something like that. That's AI. It's the ability to read. So whether you're reading a PDF or you're reading other text, that would be AI. Anything that comes out. Anything that has the ability to see, like a drone being able to identify what's on the ground, that would be AI. Anytime you're doing pattern recognition, so if something comes up on YouTube that is like something you have seen before, that's AI. So it actually, I think, today you have to think about it in terms of there's lots of implementations of it, and you're seeing it every day. It's basically been democratized in many of the products we have today.
Well said. Thank you so much, Kathy. Meghan, would you like to introduce yourself? Just make sure everyone knows, and then we'll ask Tina to do the same.
Sure. Hi, all. I'm Meghan O'Connor. I'm an attorney with Quarles and Brady, and I chair our data privacy and security team.
And good afternoon. I'm Tina Chang. I'm the CEO of SysLogic. And just because it is top of mind, also just launched another cybersecurity company earlier this month called GoScale. So AI, cybersecurity, if you have a question, just ask it later.
Thank you so much. I know that you all have their bios in your program, but in the event you didn't have an opportunity to open that up before you started lunch, I wanted you to know who we're here with today. So let's get to the immediate question of why. Why does this matter, and why should we care about AI? Would one of you like to answer that question?
I think the obvious reason why we care is that it is showing up everywhere now. So a decade ago, I might have said the same thing about social media. I don't know if any of us were prepared or are prepared to understand the effects of social media, its effects on our data privacy, our security, other types of implications that are showing up now, like how it affects bullying in schools. And so same thing with AI, because it is becoming so prevalent in our everyday lives. I'm up here to help you learn what you should be thinking about, not just tomorrow in your usage of AI, but how it could help or harm you a decade from now.
I'll jump in that from a why perspective, this is by far the most transformative technology and will continue to be for 20 or 30 years. My example is I'd go back to the internet. So if anybody remembers, there was actually a time that we could argue about being right or wrong before we all looked on our phones, and we would go on for hours and argue who was right or wrong. nobody does that anymore about basic facts, right? We just all take a look. Or, honestly, when my kids would ask questions, I drove them to the library and we looked it up, right? Think about how much our lives have changed. Every element of our lives, from how we've raised kids to how we do business, et cetera, has changed. The same is going to be true of AI going forward into the future. And I specifically think of it every day from a business perspective. This has the ability to totally transform productivity and totally transform our need to be productive in a global economy. So my view of this is this has to be top of mind if we want to keep our companies and organizations globally competitive into the future. We also need to care because all of I will give you a quick story. I went and got my master's in workforce and talent development, specifically focused on AI and the changing nature of work, back in 2017. I will tell you, I was at a baseball game and I told this guy that that's what I was going to school for, and he looked at me and he goes, "I'm going to kill AI. I know I'm going to stop it, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, well, good luck, But the reason he had such a visceral reaction, he was afraid about his job. And I think that still is out there today. And so the other reason for all of us to know about AI is, as leaders, we have to make sure we stay globally competitive. And as individuals, we need to make sure we stay marketable and we can continue to be employable here in this market.
I think another consideration is sort of the flip side of that point is we need to understand AI in order to decide when it is and is not a good use case. Not everything needs an AI solution. And I think there's a lot of FOMO going on right now with we want to be able to say that this is powered by AI because we're hip and we're cool and we're on the cutting edge. But a lot of those decisions now for when AI is not the right decision will have lasting implications down the road. So let's understand it when it is ubiquitous, but it is not so overly ubiquitous that you can't start to identify it. Let's get ahead of it, understand it before it really takes off.
I'll give you an example of that. Smart systems today, you have your smart refrigerator and your smart thermostat. All the apps on your phones are all very smart. I don't mean to scare you, but as a tech CEO, I don't have any of it. I turn off my location services everywhere I can. I turn off access to my camera in every app because you know what? You all don't read the terms and conditions when you sign up for this. Anybody in here, the last time you downloaded an app, before you check that box, did you read the terms and conditions? The attorney in the room. Okay, so I know better, and it's a lot of work to protect your data privacy, your cybersecurity, et cetera. On my phone, I have location services for my Google Maps, and then of course I have email in my calendar. And the first time my phone said, "You better leave, you have an appointment here and there's traffic on 94, I turned that darn location services off because it said to me, ooh, they're integrated behind the scenes now, right? I understand what that looks like. Do you? And if you don't, get smarter. We need to be educated so we can make more thoughtful choices for ourselves.
Absolutely a great point. And it's my buzzkill at every party when I start telling everybody to get rid of TikTok, get rid of all of the apps, but also think about how that will implicate sort of business requirements. We have a number of clients that we work with that have outside counsel guidelines that require us in the age of remote work to have no Siri enabled in any device near where anyone is doing work. Where are those recordings going? Where are they maintained? Think through on a personal side and a professional side. We're going to see a lot of, and we've started to see some trade secret issues with AI. We can talk about that, but people just dropping accidentally trade secrets into ChatGPT, and there's no way to get it back. You can't close that bottle. So think about that personally and for your companies.
Great answers. Thank you. And you all hit on this a little bit. I know, Kathy, you did, Tina as well. Are there any other simple examples of AI in our everyday lives? How do you spot it? How will our members here know some other examples of how to spot AI just in their everyday?
That's really easy for me. I call it user experience. So if you have a better user experience, AKA, you're really delighted that this one made a recommendation for you on something you would like, that's AI. If you don't like it, turn it off. But it's very easy for me to spot because my user experience will actually go up as I'm using technology, right? So think about, again, that smart thermometer that now you get to control from your phone to turn up the heat before you get out of bed. Well, one day when the alarm goes off, the phone knows to turn up the heat because you didn't have to go in there and do it yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. That's AI.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And Kathy, you mentioned the angst that you heard from the gentleman that was sitting next to you a couple years back after you finished your degree. You know, I know there's a lot of angst and concern about AI. As president of a university, there's a lot of angst among our faculty right now about utilizing AI. And their worry, of course, as you can imagine, is our students, our college students, won't think for themselves any longer. Or they'll turn to ChatGPT to write their papers, and so it won't be their thinking. And so our faculty have really grappled with this a little bit, so much so that I hired a keynote speaker to kick off our academic year this year who has expertise in AI to talk about how to better use it as a tool for learning in the classroom, because it's already here. And so I would ask this panel to think about that with me and help the audience members here today know, what advice do you have for us, and how should leaders best prepare to get their workplace environments ready for utilizing AI to our advantage?
So a couple of things. First of all of us should be playing with AI. If we haven't yet tried, how many have tried ChatGPT? Wow, we got a pretty, that's awesome. Because we all should be playing with it, because it helps us understand some of the capabilities here. And if you aren't in awe of it, I'd be surprised. I mean, the first time I wrote a letter of recommendation for somebody, and I'm like, that half-hour job just took me 5 minutes, right? You know, it's awesome. And we can do that with a lot of things to create starting points, similar to what you should be doing in school. But we got to be careful also. So I was with a company last week, and they're like, they just created a task force. I won't name names, of course, but they had just created a task force around AI. And one of the questions was, what use cases are you targeting? Do you know where are you targeting in your business? Where are you trying to get more revenue? Are you trying to reduce cost? Are you trying to expand customer experience? That's one of the first questions you have to do, right? Is, what am I trying to accomplish? It's not about the technology. And then the second thing is, I asked them, do you have any policies yet in place? If you don't have a policy, they will be using it in some manner, means, etc., and it'll be unbeknownst to you. So my question was, what if somebody put a quote in there and it was in the public version? Do you want your competitors to learn from that? It could be a lot of different things, right? It could be the way you talk to your clients. It could be the way you put together proposals. If you're getting smart in your personal life to use it for generating first drafts, people are going to start to think about, how do I use it in my professional life to save me time and get more productive? So there has to be a policy in place. And then the third piece of it is, I'd say, you have to be thinking about your data and the preparation of your data, and how that data is going to enable you to either put in place use cases that are going to save cost, make money, or improve your customer experience.
I will say this before anybody forgets to say it. For all of you that raised your hands that use ChatGPT, it is public domain. So you don't want to put any sensitive information, or as Kathy said, anything that you want to protect in that free version. However, businesses, individuals that are savvy, there are lots of private training grounds or uses that can protect that sensitive information. So I just launched a prototype at my company that we're calling Tina AI. The idea, I warned them, was not to replace me, but it was this idea of saying, hey, listen, if voice and decision-making from a CEO is that important, let's understand if we can replicate it in my unique voice and decision-making. And if you think that's crazy, don't. There's a company in China that I think is absolutely crazy, but the board voted a chatbot to be its CEO, and it's performing well. How scary is that?
Thank you so much. Well, that leads me to the perfect next question, and that is, what are some legal and ethical considerations when we're talking about AI?
Yes, so this could be a day-long discussion in of itself, but there are AI laws popping up all over the place. Unsurprisingly, unfortunately, the U.S. is quite far behind in sort of bringing these new laws into place, as we are with our data privacy laws. However, all AI involves data. So all of our existing data privacy and security laws apply to AI. Some of our regulators have issued guidance. There are work groups that are issuing structures and frameworks. There's an EU privacy law that is moving through that will probably become sort of the basis for what the US will do down the road. Some of the main focus areas, they're all different, but a little bit the same. The focus areas are, how did you get your data? Do you have appropriate authorization and consent to be using that data for the purpose of the AI? You can't collect data for one purpose and use it for AI. Are you transparent to the data subjects about what you are doing with their data? Have you prepared the data appropriately to take into account potential bias? Because, this is the garbage in, garbage out. We really need to have unbiased data to come out with useful AI. And then there's the output, and there needs to be some level of human interaction. The laws that are coming on board have different levels of risk assessments based on what we see in the EU, the level of human involvement in the output. So I think that's where we'll go. Those are sort of the main principles that the laws are developing with, but they will always be, just like our privacy laws, behind the technology. So they're not going to be super prescriptive. It's going to be left to industry groups to focus on more nuanced collaborations where we hold each other accountable, similar to what we do under the credit card PCI standard. We're not going to see a national AI law that has any understanding of technology. Now, ethics is a whole nother question, and I don't think our laws will ever accurately capture appropriate ethical use of AI. So that's going to be a major industry question, and one of the main things that we work with our clients on is the importance of AI governance. It's almost 75% of the development of AI is not the technology itself, it's the governance that goes into it. How do you make decisions? Who are the people of authority who can make decisions about bias and if a use case is appropriate? Do you have a multidisciplinary group of people that can speak to each other and understand their different languages? It's a major issue now, and something I would recommend everybody focus on is the governance component of AI. If you have the good governance, looking at these principles, as the laws evolve, you'll be able to keep up.
I think you just made a really good point around the governance. And the other piece is making sure it's somebody's responsibility to continue to test the outcomes of the AI, because it can occur drift over time, right? Where the decisions that you were making can actually, it'll learn from itself and the decisions will actually drift over time. So making sure that the models stay trained and aligned into the decisions that you want to make, That all is part of the governance structure and making sure essentially there's humans in the middle, whether that is, to to first look at the results before, presenting them to a client. By the way, any use case you're looking at, being able to do that internally first is always best before you open it up to your customers, because you should have that interpretation in there. Same thing is, when you think about how you interpret that, you need to make sure you're also testing it along the way.
I think that's a great point, and this is one of the biggest areas where the law and the point of AI collide. We are moving in a space where the law is focused on data minimization. We went through this big sort of process where everybody wanted all the data. Let's give all the data to the data scientists and we'll just have fun with it and we'll see what comes out of it. Then breaches became ubiquitous, and now we've moved into the data minimization space, and all of the existing data privacy laws in the world have a data minimization component. That doesn't work when we need to have big data to train our AI models. We have to retain the source data so we can demonstrate that it's unbiased and that we can keep reviewing it. So this is going to be a legal issue that will play out. We're seeing it if you've seen like Sarah Silverman's lawsuit, all the web scraping that has gone into some of the AI lawsuits. So this is going to be a space, the IP issues, what do you own, who owns the input, who owns the output, and what are we going to do with all these just data lakes, and do we need to get rid of it?
Thank you so much. So much to think about. I know a lot of us in this room are raising children. We are caring for aging parents. And so as technology advances, what advice do you have, or what role do we need to understand we have in helping keep our loved ones safe when it comes to this?
I'll tell you, I have an 83-year-old mother, and she has 2 kids in tech. So we like to use our tech with her, but we say you are not allowed to touch any of the settings. And she's 83, she's vulnerable and gullible. And we say you never give out financial information and passwords to anybody that asks. I said, do you hear me? That means the person at the front desk at the independent living place, that's the person that's trying to reset your Spectrum settings, whatever, nothing. And I can't begin to tell you how many times she calls me and says, so-and-so is asking for my password to help me. Can I do it? And I said, no, and good for you. Thank you for calling. Well, think about how vulnerable our seniors are, right? And then think about all of us in this room. We didn't grow up with tech. I know tech because it's my business, but we haven't been educated beyond the advancements of technology to know how to adopt it. And whose fault is that? Partially our own. When OpenAI ChatGPT hit the world last year, there should have been a public warning that said, don't put private information in there. But think about our kids today. They're not being educated. They're going to be so vulnerable. And if you're somebody like me that believes the next warfare will be digital, this is a very scary proposition. So my number one advice to people is doing what you're doing right now. Education is a journey. You got to start small. You've got to know how to spot what you need to be concerned about. And then you need to ask, okay, I think I should be concerned here. Somebody's asking for my password. What's my next step? Right? And then you can learn, and it's a journey. We never did this with big data. We never did this with social media, and we're not going to do it properly with AI unless we commit to that journey. If you're me and I could change public policy, I would have legal and ethics classes in grade school because they're adopting faster than others. TikTok is a problem right now because it went viral with our kids. And if you know anything about TikTok, it is China owned. You know how we really like those Google Maps so that we can look at everybody's houses these days, right? TikTok is an aerial view inside your homes. And think about a nation state that may want to do harm to us one day, having an internal view of all of our homes. And you might say, well, who cares about my home, right? But think about being able to map and coordinate every single piece of a home you can navigate without ever having stepped foot on a piece of property. Right? And so we need to educate ourselves on what some of these implications are, not only for our own individual adoption, of course our commercial adoption, but more so what we're willing to push and what we want to regulate. We think the regulation is up to the feds. It really isn't. We've got to get our voices out there. Right? I'm doing public hearings all the time of saying this is why I think this is really good and this is why it's dangerous. Take a step back. And it's not to halt adoption and innovation, but it's to do it the right way. And we all own that as citizens these days.
Gosh, thanks so much, Tina. That led right into my next question, which is, can anyone here speak to the intersection of AI and data privacy? You did that a little bit. And I ask this in terms of an individual perspective all the way through regulatory processes.
So I think we'll start with the smallest level on individual privacy. Almost every website you visit should have at the very bottom a link that says privacy policy and either terms of use or terms of service. If you click on that privacy policy, it should explain what data is being collected online and offline from that organization, how that data is being used, and who it's shared with. It should be entirely transparent to the user. It's supposed to be written in language that's easy to understand, but as cookie banners pop up, they're not the most easy to understand process. So that's the first thing as a consumer that none of us do, but it's something we should do. It needs to be there, otherwise that business can be liable for an unfair or deceptive trade practice under the FTC Act. So it's the first thing, go home, check all of your business's website privacy policies. If they haven't been updated since June, July of this year, call your lawyers, get them updated. They should be updated every time your data use changes. And then when you're interacting with the world, you should check those website privacy policies as well. What are those companies doing with my data? Same thing when you opt in on apps. They're all in there. Everyone should have them. Online and offline data practices. There's no U.S. federal privacy law. We've had a few attempts. I wouldn't hold our breath for any sort of bipartisan bill, but the states are coming online with state privacy laws at a really rapid rate. And unfortunately, they're all slightly different and really difficult to comply with if you have a business that covers the U.S. and then international. So it's a really frustrating process right now for companies to figure out what are the obligations that apply to us. In Wisconsin, there is no data privacy law. There's a data breach notification law that's frankly without much teeth. Most of the clients that I work with that have data breaches related to Wisconsin residents do not have to notify those residents of data breaches because the way our law is written. There's been a bill introduced in Wisconsin for a data privacy bill, but again, I wouldn't hold my breath that it'll pass. So in terms of regulation, Wisconsin is not a place that is a highly regulated space for privacy and no security bills. So we look to the industries. Healthcare is highly regulated, banking is highly regulated, businesses in a bunch of other states also highly regulated in privacy and security. But it's going to be some time until we get privacy laws in all of the states that are at least a minimum floor for expectations. So read those privacy notices. Sometimes they have to ask your consent for certain uses. Sometimes they just have to tell you what they're doing. And because everybody ignores the privacy policies, no one really pays attention to what's happening.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I want to ask each of our panelists to just share, if they could, a piece of advice for each of us as we go on out and think about and ponder what we've heard today. What advice would you offer to our attendees?
I'll start with the talent. So first of all, I would say a couple of things from a business perspective. You have to prioritize, right? Really have a plan in place for what this is and prioritize based on use case. And what I mean by that is if you think about impact to your organization versus, the effort that goes into that, you should have a plan around AI to be focused on the highest priority. The second, though, is talent, and I'll give you a personal story. Part of the reason I went back and got my master's in this area is at IBM in 2016, I was implementing AI on the benefit of some of our clients. And at the time, what was happening is I was essentially firing people that had old skills, and I was trying to hire unicorns on the other side that had AI skills. And I just believed fundamentally there was a different way. I believed you could take people that had expertise in your people, your processes, your products, all of that expertise that they have, your policies, et cetera. And it was as much, or, it could be, you could bring people up to skills in AI to help them in identifying use cases and in implementation of those use cases. The opposite is that you assume that you have to have all AI expertise on your teams. And honestly, with the cost of AI expertise today and what we're likely going to do, we're probably in this region going to be best of breed at implementation if we want to stay competitive. We're going to take products that have AI inside and we're going to figure out how to apply them to our businesses to get best outcomes. And so as a result of that, we need AI expertise and we need to understand the use cases and we need to understand the technologies. But we can do that with some of the talent that we have, and we need to be training our people in AI and having them understand the use cases, the outcomes, et cetera, that go along with that. There then is the implication that there will be productivity improvements that frees up people, and you need to be thinking about what do you want to invest that people time into. So that would be the ideal outcome, is that we keep people employed and that we are better at what we all do and are doing it more productively.
Thank you.
I think my takeaway would be asking the right questions up front. What do we want to do? And decide, is this an existing function that we are improving the process of, or is this a new function that wouldn't be possible but for AI? If it's not one of those things, then it's probably not the right use case for AI. So ask the questions up front, get your governance in line, and have fun. Expect to fail. Failure is part of it. There's whole new industries of jobs coming out that are prompt writers just for AI. That is not a skill set that most of us have. It's going to have to be developed. So there's going to be a lot of failing, but that failing will educate us on how to improve.
I just had the biggest epiphany sitting up here. I am up here thinking, they're not going to read those terms and conditions tomorrow. And my epiphany was, AI can actually do that for us. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. Those terms and conditions, I want you to cut and paste them. I want you to put it into ChatGPT. If you haven't done this already, you just go to the OpenAI website, you start a little login, and there you go. It's the free version. Remember not to put anything proprietary or sensitive in there. But put the terms and conditions in there, and let's sample. What should I be worried about in these terms and conditions? And let's see what the AI gives us back. Okay? So, this was my epiphany. I can't believe it. I was going to have somebody read a long document for me, and I was like, I just put it in some kind of AI engine. Okay, so here's my advice for you. You can see how I just replaced maybe my assistant to have to read something for me to saying, can you get through this and see if there's anything I should be concerned about? And I replaced a function. And this is where I say to you, this is very real. I was playing around with image resolution the other day, and I had the SysLogic logo. I knew what I wanted an ad to look like, and I said, create an ad for me for this, right? And look at what I just replaced, graphic designers and some marketing functions. That's scary, right? And that's real. I was helping a friend out with a cybersecurity incident the other day, 10 p.m., Friday night. That's usually when they hit, right before the weekend, when you don't have resources. And as we were getting through some cybersecurity things, I said, you know, you're really going to want to start to understand how you're going to communicate with both your employees and your clients. And literally, he sits there and starts writing. And I said, stop that. And I literally put in ChatGPT, cybersecurity incident message to customers. And it ripped out a nice little message. I said, here, now personalize this one. Don't start from scratch. So what does that mean? It is pushing us as individuals, think about your kid, think about your workplaces, to be more creative, more personalized, because that's what we can still do and is needed. It is going to make us have to form opinions more, have better decision quality, because AI isn't good on all decisions, but decision quality and analytical thinking, right? So if I had a kid right now, I said, this is what you're going to get good at, because the information is already out there on the web. Somebody's going to crunch it equally, maybe if not better from you. What you can really add to this is creativity, innovation, and critical thinking. All basic things we want to teach when we're young, but how do we bring them alive is the question. Playing with AI in safe ways to saying, how would I critically think what this just did for me, taking it to another level, taking the next step, is really good training and learning for all of us, because our jobs will get replaced. Software programmers are getting replaced right now. And so if somebody thinks they're going to have a job 10 years from now as a great software programmer, no, AI is developing the code. What they will do is make the code better, and that's going to create the need for those characteristics that I mentioned.
Gosh, thank you so much. I've got one more question, and we've talked about some really serious and heavy kinds of items today. I want to ask our esteemed panelists, what excites you? I'd like you to leave our audience with something that's positive and exciting about this new technology. And let's see, Tina or Meghan, we'll start with one of you. I know Kathy has started a lot of our conversations. So what excites you most?
I'm going to sound like totally like a buzzkill here, but going back to our next warfare will be digital. Cybersecurity is a real issue for everybody. I am so excited that AI is going to help with cybersecurity defense. It's really hurting us in some ways because our criminals are adopting faster than we are, but we have over 700,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs right now. So think about how big that need is, and AI is really going to help us monitor, check for patterns, check for, oh, Judy doesn't usually work at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm seeing activity, right? It could do all those things, and for us to be able to activate it to protect ourselves as individuals and a nation, I get excited about.
Well, I am a big data privacy and security dork, so I'm excited that this conversation is happening. I think we haven't really cared very much as a country, other than specific industries, to think about what data is, what does it mean, what's the value of data. Lots of quotes out there saying data is the new oil. This is a time where we get to be involved in the forefront of major changes, and just haven't seen that in some time. This is another industrial revolution that we get to participate in and shape decisions. I have a young daughter who is in 3rd grade this year, and they gave an AI assignment at school in 3rd grade, and it was blowing my mind what's happening already. And so I'm excited to see what's next.
And I'm excited about use cases. And when I say that, there are problems that we as humans have not been able to solve ourselves. And with the augmentation of our own capabilities, with the power of artificial intelligence to take a look at thousands and thousands and thousands of iterations of the same problem, we actually have the ability to solve some problems. So whether that is in the area of personalized healthcare, to be able to have drugs that are specifically targeted to our genomics, whether that's the ability, frankly, I'm looking forward to the use case of truly driverless cars when I'm an old person and I want a robot taking care of me and I want an autonomous vehicle taking me places. That is me. And I think about things like our big challenges of the future, whether that's, climate change, et cetera. I do believe that these technologies will help us in being able to come up with the solutions that we're going to need as we evolve. And so to me, it's hope for those future. And I always say I need the good guys to stay ahead of the bad guys. So all of us as good guys need to be learning AI, et cetera. And as long as we do, I think we have a really hopeful future.
Well, I have to say, I have been honored to work with the three of you, and I want to thank you, Kathy, Meghan, and Tina, for sharing your expertise with all of us today on this topic. I'd also like to thank Ixonia Bank for sponsoring this wonderful event. So please join me in thanking all of them today. Do we have questions?
Any questions?
Sure. Yeah. Do we have any questions here? Okay. Suzanne.
Thank you. That was a great conversation. Really appreciate all your insights. Who do you or what organization do you follow at the national or international level? Who's leading the conversations around this nationally or internationally? Who should we be following to be smart? As smart as you.
First of all, this is probably one of the biggest challenges right now because it's moving so fast. So personally, Axios has an AI newsletter that comes out every day. That is a nice one for, frankly, the general citizen to be able to understand the implications, the applications, all of that stuff. It's not deeply technical, right? And I really love the Axios AI newsletter that comes out every day. Frankly, so we have to be looking at it at a federal level. The White House just announced yesterday a major policy related to AI. But I could go on and on. I feel like there's a good hour a day right now that I spend just reading. It's literally crazy. So I think all of those are just good examples.
I also really like the International Association of Privacy Professionals. There's an AI newsletter from them as well that you can join. They have a training on AI governance. That's an intensive 2-day training. I did it earlier this year. It was the first time they've started it. So it's going to be evolving, obviously, as AI evolves. But if there's someone in your organization that is very dedicated in learning AI, that's a great training to do as well. I like Bloomberg News has a really nice AI. I'm trying to think through NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, has some good security standards. And then just watching the progress of the EU AI Act and all the commentary on that, because what happens in the EU will probably be coming to the US. If not federally, then on the state level. So just watching how that develops and commentary.
And I wasn't gonna answer this question because I am so spoiled. I've got a little army of tech people that I just go across the hall and ask questions to. But it reminds me, you all know tech people in your life, whether they're kids and students growing in this or a neighbor. And this is what happens. When somebody asks me, what do you do, Tina? I say, I'm in tech. And if they're not in tech, they shut down and we don't talk about work anymore because they don't even know what tech is. Listen, the next time you ask a friend, what do you do? I'm in tech. Say, what do you specialize in? And if you hear things like AI or cybersecurity or, say, tell me what you know about, because chances are they know a lot. You just haven't learned that you can get a lot of information from them. I could read all I want online. It makes my head spin. So sometimes just talking to somebody to make it practical could really start that journey a little earlier.
start your own newsletter so that we can?
I think we have
Publish it.
we have a question near the back of the room there. Yes.
Good morning. I know nothing about AI, and I went to a meeting at the IBAW and I learned. And I have a daughter who's a senior at Madison in computer science and some data. She's got a double major in some data something. I haven't figured out what that something is. But because of that, I started asking questions. Alpha Signal puts out a weekly culmination of all the changes in AI, and I don't understand anything, but I read it, so I know that I'm familiar with the terms, so I can say something intelligent occasionally. So Alpha Signal, and then I watched, it was probably on YouTube, the 5 Eyes, and that is representatives from 5 different democratic countries who are looking at all of the security, all of the things to be afraid of, to be watchful of, all the things the companies need to know about. And it was called The 5 Eyes, and that was incredibly informative. I thank you guys so much for sharing everything with us. We average people need to know these things. Oh, did I have a question? What should I tell my daughter who's got this major and she's had internships and I don't want her to be out of a job down the line? Software development.
If she's in tech and she's not getting a job, something else.
No, she is. She's had great internships, but
Tech is going to be the foundation for every industry.
I tell her, don't go for the big dogs. Go for the companies that have a good work-life balance and commitment to education development.
I would just suggest you have to continue your learning. Like if I look at what I started in 30 years ago, I mean, I was a systems engineer, and it was essentially a systems programmer, which literally we told bits, where things were on disk drives, et cetera. None of that exists, right? That's all been automated. Everything I did when I started in my career has been automated. But here I am, 30 some years later, and it's because it evolves and you evolve with it. And I think that's an important part of the technical field.
Thank you. We have another question in the back of the room, and then we'll come up here with you, Susan.
Hello. So kind of following up with job security, I think I was listening, but when you said programmers, I perked up. My husband's a programmer. I thought we had mated. And now, it's a little scary, I think, for a lot of people. So what do you recommend for somebody that wants to be, that global citizen, somebody that wants to, even if that's not exactly what they do and their background, like how do you breach into it? And how do you, become part of it so that you're not left behind?
So first of all, there are some good free educations out there. So for example, Microsoft does have a AI training program that you can do free of charge and get some of those base skills. I think that is going to be an important thing for a general citizen to do and continue to get that AI education. But I think all of us have been at points in our careers where we've needed to continue to learn, and I recommend any of the technical colleges, universities, et cetera. The nice thing is we actually have some great assets here in the region. WCTC has the very first, technical degree and certificate program coming out in AI. MSOE had the very first undergraduate program across the country. They have masters and post-secondary, Marquette, UWM. We are very fortunate here in this region that we have such a great access to ability to continue our education.
Thank you. Susan?
So I'm stuck on this terms and conditions thing, right? Because we don't read it. Question related, when you read articles online, you can accept or reject cookies. Which ones should we accept and which ones should we reject?
Okay, here we go. See, this is why you talk to the tech people at dinner, okay? You reject anything that's not necessary. Just start there. Because here's what I do. I'm moving so fast sometimes, I need to sometimes go to a website and be productive. So, let me think through, what do I accept and what do I reject? I reject everything other than basic functionality. And if you start to work with that website and you're getting trapped and you can't do some things you really want to do, you get to make that choice of, is this functionality worth me giving away a little bit more? And you could go back into the cookie settings and adjust it. But I do this with your phones. I mean, I turned on my mom's settings in her iPhone and shut everything off. And I say, as you get trapped, the user experience is not that good, I'll turn stuff back on for you. But make the choice. Be in control. We want that in every other part of our lives, but yet we don't demand it in our technology. Why not?
The other point I would make is the terms and conditions are going to be boilerplate on every website. That's the contract between you and the business. That's the, don't steal our logo, don't use our product to download porn. That's the language in the terms of use. It's the privacy policy. That's the one that's the most important one to read. So put those privacy policy links into ChatGPT and have them tell you what's worrisome. But lawyers draft them really well to hide what's really happening. So it's going to be interesting to see what AI thinks.
Thank you, Megan.
Hi there. I'm coming at this from two different angles. One as a former teacher and also now owning my own small business. And so when I hear you say that AI can help us to think critically, to think differently, that's as adults, right? We already possess the skills to read and write. We are continuing our education to match a changing game. But as far as the youth goes, if we want to bridge the gap, if we want to narrow the space between us and those who are ahead of us, my first question is, how do we get that integrated into schools? We were talking about policies and curriculum to get the youth familiar. And also, are there resources or things in place that would be available to the public or to teachers who could find some time and space to make it a natural learning point for even the youngest, right? They're all using iPads, computers, things of that nature. And data is not tangible to them, so they're certainly not thinking about it. But you have these groups of children, hundreds of children in one building, in one space, who are potentially offering information and data to whomever.
Yeah, that's a key question that I think we need to think through. Studies show that millennials are the last sort of generation that has a healthy sense of skepticism when it comes to technology, because millennials grew up when technology was coming online with the advent of Facebook. And so it doesn't mean that they're risk averse, it just means that they've got an appropriate level of skepticism with a new technology. Since then, the generations have just assumed that technology is a critical part of their life and don't question. And so that is a key education point that we need to build in. I like it through the schools. So like our school district, my daughter goes to the Elmbrook School District. They have an online literacy program that they do starting in kindergarten. And they do a little bit each year. We do some training with our clients to high school students, but by then you've lost them if you just start at high school. So absolutely something we need to think through, because we have lost that healthy skepticism that I think most of us in this room have.
I'll tell you a little exercise I do with my nephew to try and get him to be a more critical thinker, to challenge to the technology. And you all know this if you're parents. It's the annoying question, why? If you keep asking why in what you're doing, the competency, boy, does that help you really form opinions, but create an analytical environment for yourselves and those around you. So I do it at work. They're talking about, we can do X, Y, and Z, and they hate it when I said, why do I care? Well, you can do X, Y, and Z. Why do I care about that? And I keep going until we really get to the core of why something matters. And, I'll even look at my addicted little nephew on some game and I'll say, why do you like that game? I don't know. And I take his iPad and I put it down. I said, until you can tell me why you like that game, you can't play it. Right? And he was like, well, I like my game because of X, Y, and Z, and I don't like this other game because X, Y, and Z. And boy, does that even just help shape me to understand adoption from young kids.
Quick question, doubling down on, developing the future workforce. I think our region is really all about that. But when it's coming to retaining and attracting, we're talking about reskilling. Tina, you said over 700,000 jobs are unfilled right now in cyber. We've got a lot of small businesses that are here in our region. What are your suggestions on companies making a move on upskilling and reskilling the talent they have to be better versed in this space to protect the company moving forwards?
There is nothing like a function that's getting outsourced to know what right questions to ask technology, right? I think that if we adopt technologies and apply what we know from a domain perspective and push the technology, we'll see what the technology is capable of, but then we'll also see what we're capable of at reaching that next level in our thinking, in whatever expertise it is. It could be marketing, it could be something completely in your home. Ask AI about cooking. Start off with, I did this. What can I do with a pepper? And then keep going and keep asking. And then maybe all of a sudden it says to you, wow, I can create this entire meal and have this entire function with peppers, which I never thought about. I also landed on a pepper can also be used for some other household uses, right? So
I think we have the time for one more question. Is there anyone who has a burning question out here? Okay. Oh, gosh. All right. We have several burning questions. So maybe we can. Judy, I'll go you, and then I'll come to you next, okay?
Mine's really quick. So when I answer my phone, right, I always think they're like tape recording my voice to then somehow use it against me. Is that real? Yes, right? So when you don't hear something, well, or whatever they're doing,
Listen, so anybody here social engineering? All right, it's a big cybersecurity technique where somebody convinces you they're somebody that they're really not in order to get critical information. It's how Caesars and MGM just got hacked. And I immediately said, before I knew anything, I guarantee you women were involved. And it was women. Here's why. We're trusting. Right? We're more trusting. We're empathetic to the cause that so-and-so can't get into the system. And we reset passwords because we trust. Okay, so I hate to say it, with social engineering, with masking voices, images, all of these other things so easily, I could do it before we even leave this room. You need to be less trusting and more scrutinizing. Be in control. Take control. If something even sniffs wrong, take a step back. We're not in that much of a rush. Because yes, you remember the days when you all said, I think my phone is listening to me. And I would say, of course it is. Don't you know the technology? And now you're like, oh yeah, the phone can listen to me. Right? The same thing now with AI.
And yes, legally, in some states, they only need one party to consent to a phone call being recorded.
But even like you're just saying yes to something, and they're recording that, my voice saying yes, and using it in a different way that I didn't accept something, or say yes to, right? That kind of manipulation, I guess, is concerning.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you something really creepy. My mom's banking application, she has to say my voice is my password in order to get in, right? So what did I do? I recorded her saying, my voice is my password. And now I play the recording when it says my voice is my password, and it works.
We have another question back here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ladies, so much. I'm coming from a perspective of a small business owner. And so oftentimes when I hear people talking about the importance of thinking about these issues, it's from a larger scale. So for a very small shop, what resources would you point a small business owner to who's really looking at how to think about the protection, the governance, the integrations, and the various things that you all have shared today?
Well, I think this is an opportunity for us to spend more time with some community resources so that we're not duplicating efforts business to business, where we can, I don't know if you want to talk more through options that we can do here in Milwaukee, but that's absolutely what we do. We have startup clients that pull their resources together and small businesses, because I understand that my billable rate is not something that a small business wants to pay. Totally understood, and we need to work more with options where we can talk together.
I also think resources like Gartner are getting much better for giving playbooks for small businesses. They used to be big business only. So I have a small business just like you do. It's where do I put my time and attention? Okay, you don't like to hear this, but I said this about tech people. My favorite thing to do is have a large army of attorney friends, and I take them out for drinks so I don't have to pay a billable hour. And I ask them lots of questions. And I was like, that was cheap legal advice. Okay, so surround yourself by the people that are knowledgeable. And the key is ask the right questions, because I can't tap my attorney friends and say, tell me everything you know. They're like, this is how I make my money. You got to sign up. I have 3 key questions. So I will study before what I need to learn. I'll piece the information together. Playbooks, though, online are better than you think these days for small business. It used to be everybody ignored us, but there's a lot out there too.
And I think taking it off in bite-sized priorities is the only way to do it. You can't develop an entire AI governance program or a privacy compliance program in one fall swoop. So I always recommend that people focus on the outward-facing issues. That's the easiest for regulators to find. That's the easiest thing for plaintiffs, class action attorneys to find. It's that website privacy policy, and it's be as transparent as possible, and make sure that it's accurate for your current business operations. That's the first thing you do. Because it is really easy for a plaintiff's attorney sitting in California to run your website through some pretty cheap software to find out what cookies you have placed. And then if you're not telling your visitors what cookies are on your website, they will send you a letter asking to settle for a whole bunch of state and federal privacy violations. So that's where I would always say start. And then work with friends you trust out for drinks to put together a priority list over the next couple of years. It's not a just drop it and it works type of process.
Yeah, and I was going to say the prioritization is key, right? Based on what you want to accomplish. If you're trying to get additional sales, there are, opportunities to do that through applications, et cetera. Frankly, interns these days at a collegiate level are great to bring in as a pretty cheap resource as well, to be able to help you in thinking about what's the art of the possible, because most of them are digital natives, et cetera, and that's what they grew up on, and they will come in with just ideas. So I would say prioritization and targeting it, and based on that, bringing in some resources as a first step in order to get started.
Great. I think we'll wrap it up there. Please join me once more in thanking our panelists. We so appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I'm Cassandra Crandall, the Vice President of Treasury Management at Ixonia Bank. In my role, I'm honored to work with leaders and business owners like you in meeting your banking needs. Additionally, I'm on the Women in Business team here at Ixonia Bank, the committee that puts on these fantastic events. Ixonia Bank is thrilled to host this panel event for you today. As a special thank you to Cindy and all of our panelists, Ixonia Bank is donating $100 to each of your charities as a panelist for your wonderful conversation that you had with us here today. What a wonderful discussion we've had. Let's give them another round of applause. And one last thank you goes to you, our audience, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We hope you had a great experience and can post about it on social media by tagging us and using the hashtag #HelpingWomenSucceed. There will be a recording of the event posted on our website and social media later this week. Additionally, we are giving away a 20-ounce Simple Modern insulated water bottle to 30 lucky winners. If you haven't already, look underneath your coffee cup saucer, and if you have a winner card, you can redeem your prize at a registration table on your way out of the event. I see a few excited winners out there. One more thing. Following the event, you'll receive an email survey to let us know about your experience today, as well as share any topics and speakers of interest you'd like to hear at future events. Can you hear me? Speaking of future events, we'll be planning soon for 2024. As a participant of today's event, you'll automatically receive an invitation to these upcoming events. Stay tuned for the invitation and make sure you follow us on LinkedIn for your latest updates. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day and drive safe. I saw some more snow out there.